Bitcoin fees have been skyrocketing lately, and some people are calling this the end of Bitcoin. But what exactly is causing this? Well, it's something called Ordinals, and the community is really split on this. Some people loved it while others hate it and think it's ruining Bitcoin's purpose. But who's right, and more importantly, how will Ordinals affect our beloved Bitcoin? Well, these are the questions we'll explore in today's video. In just a minute, I'll tell you why Bitcoin developers want to ban Ordinals altogether, but first we got to better understand this new inventions that's shaken Bitcoin to its core. So Ordinals are basically NFTs on Bitcoin. Now, you might be thinking, NFTs on Bitcoin? How's that even possible? Well, in January of this year, a Bitcoin developer called Casey Rodemore made it possible. He found a way to identify a number Satoshi on Bitcoin in the order they were mined. And just like that, his Ordinal protocol was born. For your context, a Satoshi or SAT is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, equivalent to 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, and they were previously fungible or indistinguishable from one another. But now that we could ID each SAT and distinguish between them, each of them was technically non-fungible, aka NFT. At that point, we're just missing one thing, which is adding JPEGs to them, because that's what people like, right? So Rodemore came up with a solution called inscriptions. It lets people inscribe a set with data such as images or text. So finally, everything was complete and we could have a full-on NFT on Bitcoin. People began to trade these Ordinals NFTs like crazy. One of them even sold for 11.5 Bitcoin, which is around 250,000 at the time. But the real chaos hadn't even started yet. You see, in March, a developer called Domo figured out how to create fungible tokens on Bitcoin using the Ordinal protocol with token supply, name and everything. And so the BRC20 token standard was born, and with it came the shit coins on the Bitcoin network. Now, these coins were the real culprits as they quickly grew to a combined market cap of several $100 million. People were trading them left and right, and they clogged up the Bitcoin network with their transactions. As I'm making this video, there's still over 200,000 transactions in the mempool just waiting to be confirmed. The congestion got so bad that it even forced Binance to stop Bitcoin withdrawals for a bit. But does it mean all these critics were right then? Well, let's take a look at the drawbacks of Ordinals to find out. Even though Bitcoin isn't exactly known for low fees, it's still true that average transaction fee has increased significantly because of Ordinals. And because of this spike, Bitcoin core developer Luke Dasher even called Ordinals an attack on Bitcoin as they prevent people from using it as peer-to-peer electronic cash. His concern isn't just theoretic though, it's affecting people in the real world. For example, a Bitcoin payment in El Salvador costs $20 in fees, which is almost 10% of the average person's monthly salary there. So that's just not acceptable for end users. But the same Bitcoin core developer claims to have a solution, and the solution is to ban the whole thing. He's proposing that miners filter out Ordinal transactions from the network, basically killing off Ordinals once and for all. That proposal really reminds me of the net neutrality debate, where internet providers could charge people more for visiting certain sites or even restrict them altogether. And that doesn't really sound like freedom, right? But luckily, most people seem to agree that banning Ordinals isn't the right choice. Glassnode lead analyst put it best when he said that any attempt to ban Ordinals is far more of an attack on Bitcoin than leaving them be. Since they are within the rules, the real attack is actually when a loud minority of people decide to change the rules to stop something they don't like. So ironically, even though Luke claims that Ordinals are against the ethos of Bitcoin, banning them is so much worse. But even if you don't ban Ordinals from Bitcoin, there's still concern that the high fees are preventing adoption. But is that even true? Well, let's take a look at the flip side, aka the benefits of Ordinals now. So the biggest benefit is that Ordinals are significantly increasing revenues for miners. This is super important because roughly every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that miners earn from mining a block is cut in half. So in the long run, miners have to rely more and more on transaction fees to generate revenue rather than block rewards. Some people have even predicted that once the block rewards get super low, all the miners will leave, which would completely wreck Bitcoin's network security. That's actually a catastrophic scenario that I'm worried about because I plan on holding my Bitcoin for a very long time. But maybe with Ordinals, that won't be an issue anymore. The more fees miners get from transactions, the more incentive they have to stay in the network. So Ordinals could provide a long-term incentive for miners to stick around. Galaxy research show that if the unused block space from 2022 was used for Ordinals, miners would have earned 5,700 Bitcoins in total from transaction fees, which represents a 6.1% increase in profits for them. Not bad, huh? So yeah, while high fees do mean that there's gonna be some people who can't use Bitcoin, at least miners will continue operating to keep the network secure. Well, that's not the only benefit of Ordinals. We could also argue that it boosts the Bitcoin developer community and user adoption. For example, at the Bitcoin 2023 conference in Miami, several developers were there just because of Ordinals. Now, I don't know about you, but I support any sort of application on Bitcoin that piques the interest of builders. After all, our industry desperately needs more usable blockchain apps, and that's exactly what the Ordinal protocol enables. A team of developers at the conference created a Bitcoin wallet built for Ordinals called Ordinals Safe. The wallet won second place in the infrastructure category of the startup competition, so Ordinal is really already out there winning prizes. And Ordinals are also inspiring people to build other things on Bitcoin, such as decentralized exchanges, which will be pretty cool to see, right? Now, I want to stress that this is not only my opinion. Even the biggest Bitcoin whale out there, Michael Saylor, is a fan of Ordinals. He said that every time someone builds a cool application on Bitcoin, it's a catalyst for adoption. And that makes perfect sense because a product that's both usable and innovative is bound to attract more users to Bitcoin. So going back to our original question of whether Ordinals are ruining Bitcoin, well, my answer is an emphatic no. Even though the hype has cooled down, Ordinals are still generating real demand for Bitcoin and attracting more people to the community. So they definitely should not be banned, and I think they are a force for positive change. But tell me your thoughts in the comments below.